imagination might be starving and you wouldn't even know. After all, you've been feeding it a lot of Netflix, and you look at ArtStation every day. The amount of visual information that you are pushing into your brain is overwhelming. How could you not be full of ideas? They're assaulting our senses every day, fully fleshed out, rendered, beautiful ideas. So why, when you open your sketchbook and you're about to draw something awesome from your imagination, do all of those ideas just seem to evaporate? Well, were they ever actually there to begin with? It's possible that you're just on a high from looking at someone else's awesome artwork, and you don't actually have a fully fleshed out idea in mind. Be honest, were you just thinking, I want to draw something just like that? Well, you're not alone. I know I've thought that a million times, as has just about everybody else. And after battling with this derivative thought process for years, I came to the conclusion that we fill our minds with imagination junk food. It's not like it doesn't taste good. I mean, it looks amazing, right? All of that flashy art, all of those awesome movies, those video games, they're just out of this world. But they're solving all the problems for you. They're leaving nothing up to your imagination. So it really is no surprise whatsoever that when it comes time to actually sit down and use your imagination, it fails you. But is there anything we can actually do about this? Can we put our imagination on a diet, pump it full of protein shakes and throw it onto a treadmill? Perhaps. I know for sure that you can feed your imagination a more balanced diet, and that's a good place to start. So I'm going to give you a couple of sources of inspiration that can help to balance out your inspirational diet. And there may be tons of these different sources, but these are just going to be a few of my personal favorites. So if they're not your flavor or cup of tea, go and find something else. The key to this is that whatever this source of inspiration is, it has nothing to do with visual art, okay? It's not someone else's awesome picture. It's not some awesome movie. It's not a cool video game. It's not concept art. It's none of that stuff. And the most obvious place to start is books. Now, this is where my imagination was exposed as a sick little golem-like character. Because long ago, I was not a reader. I didn't listen to audiobooks. I pretty much just played video games and watched movies. And then I got into drawing. And I heard this advice from someone else. Read books. Get your imagination working. And so I got some books and I started reading. And it was strange as an experience because you have to think of the world in your head. You have to visualize the characters, the faces, the places. And strangely enough, from my own experience, the cast of characters that were acting out these books in my imagination were movie stars and rock stars and my friends and family. My brain was unable to create a unique person in my mind. But it wasn't limited to the characters. The entire world seemed stripped from the latest Hollywood blockbuster or video game that I've been playing. My imagination was in bad shape. And I was determined to continue reading books or listening to audiobooks until it got in better shape. But it needed a bit more of a boost, and that will bring me to my second source of unconventional inspiration, and it's a big one, and I highly recommend it not only because it is heaps of fun, but man, it has done wonders for my imagination, and that is play Dungeons and Dragons, or any kind of tabletop role-playing game. And if you're unfamiliar with what that is, think of it like this. You get together with 4 or 5 of your good friends, you have beer and pizza, and you sit around a table together. One of these people will act as the narrator. They've prepared a story, an adventure for the rest of the players to explore, and it's all done in your imagination. Look it up, it's heaps of fun. Not only does it force us, often reclusive artists, to step outside the studio and get together with real human beings face to face on a regular basis, It is also like imagination superfood. I think you would be surprised how many of your Hollywood heroes play D&D. And lately, in recent years, it's become quite cool on the internet, and we actually have professional D&D players who make their entire living from doing podcasts and video casts of themselves just playing characters with amazing voices and great acting. I can't recommend it enough. And I also can't recommend this next source of inspiration enough. It's a bit of an odd one. You may not have heard of it, but it's the inspiration for this piece that I'm currently working on. And it's a little known video game called Dwarf Fortress. And I've kind of bashed video games for having too many graphics and solving too many problems, but this game's different because it doesn't really have graphics. It's an ASCII game. Its graphics are made up entirely of the letters and symbols on the keyboard. But don't let that simple interface fool you. It is most definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, the most complex video game ever created. Some would say it's less of a video game and more of a fantasy world generator, because that's what it does. When you start your game, it will generate an entire fantasy world. Continents, cultures, entire empires will rise and fall. It will generate hundreds of years of history, tracking each individual person on the entire planet and their entire life's story. It creates a simulation so complex that it boggles the mind. It seems like a fiction. It can't be true. When we've been indoctrinated into a world of video games where you press X to open door and hold trigger to shoot bad guy. Dwarf Fortress is certainly not everyone's cup of tea. It can be hellishly complicated to get into, and most of the juicy details are kind of hard to find when you're looking at the game's interface, but thankfully there is a thriving community of people on the internet who are writing up the stories for you and telling you all about the batshit crazy stuff that comes out of this game. And it is often so bizarre that you can't help but grab your sketchbook and try and draw it out. It's just too much fun. In fact, it's almost as much fun as this last source of inspiration. And that is just go out into nature. Visit the wild places while they're still here. Because when you're standing in one of these places and you're looking out at a vast, trackless wilderness, snow-capped mountains, cloud banks crashing against granite spires, damp, mossy forests with twisted, gnarled old trees and shy creatures. You can look at a photo, look at photos for days. They are nothing alike. Being in the place is so vital. You'll hear, feel, taste, smell the environment. And it becomes so easy to understand why people from thousands of years ago believed in fairies and leprechauns, and created rich mythologies around the cycle of life and death. These wild places are the seed of all of our culture. They're our history, they're our future, and they've inspired people since the dawn of time, and they should inspire you too. It can be a hell of a lot of fun. Get together with some friends and go camping. It's a soul-filling experience. Trust me, you won't regret it. Find a place near you that's beautiful and just go away for the weekend. Spend the weekend hiking through beautiful landscapes and spending time with friends around a campfire, eating marshmallows. It may not seem like something that could be as useful as sitting down and drawing 100 hands, but honestly, it's more useful than that. The simple act of varying your influences and experiencing all that life has to offer will make you a more rounded person and give your art a deeper dimension than it would otherwise have if you just sat in the studio all the time. That's all from me for today. I'm going to be posting a couple of links down below for anyone who's interested in checking out some of these sources of inspiration. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for watching. If you liked it, please hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.